I mean, you had such an incredible NFL career as well. It's kind of like hard to focus on something or start somewhere. But I am curious, like you're one of the greatest Raiders of all time, and then you had that stint in Green Bay where you played a lot of good ball, and then you come back to Oakland. Like when you were in hit free agency, like you were somebody who were you were franchise tagged, right?
Yep.
So like, was there when you left Oakland the first time? Was there like bitterness with the organization when going to Green Bay? Like, because you obviously came back around to Oakland, but being such a great player for them, when they kind of like let you go elsewhere, was there like any resentment? Was there any bitterness of the business per se?
Yeah, kind of. Because I never thought that I would leave Oakland. And the bitterness was more so with, like the GM at the time. So not necessarily just Raiders, it was just the GM, and I think at that time, they, told my agents or something that there was, no value to bringing me back to the Raiders. And that was coming from that side. And so it was like, what I'm saying? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a little bit bitterness in that regard, but I was also, like I said, I didn't think I would leave there, but then it was I got franchise tag, so I was free, so I could go anywhere. So I thought that I was gonna have my pick of the litter, anywhere I wanted to go, I was gonna be able to go, and man, it was dry as the Sahara out there. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was kind of crazy. And so, I went in thinking one thing, and then my experience wasn't all that great, and so through the process, Green Bay began to call my agents and wanted to bring me in, and I was reluctant. I was like, nah, I'm not going to Green Bay, so there was really no reason for me to visit there, and so called again, and when everything was really like quiet from everyone else, I had my agent reaching out to other people, and nobody was biting. So I was like, all right, well, let me go to Green Bay because we got to at least try to draw some interest from. I'll go there, maybe somebody else will be like, all right, well, some other people are checking for him. Yeah, man, it was it was crazy, yo. But if Green Bay didn't want me, I really don't know where I would have played in 2006. If Green Bay,
Really?
yeah, really.
Why do you think it was so dry, like the free agency market?
Just there was a lot of things out there. One, I did come off an injury. I broke my leg in 2005, so I missed the final 10 games of the season. Um, and then people talked about my attitude and talked about just a lot of different things. And so, and I think some of that came from the Raider side as well. Just putting some stuff out
Like
there.
Gar for that one conversation.
Yeah, right,
Right.
right. Because Mike McCarthy asked me when I first met with Mike, because it was his first. I think it was his first year. It was my first year. He asked me about it in our meeting. He was like, "Oh, what is this about you? Being a bad team guy, bad locker room guy." And I was like, "What?" Like, man, you can't talk to any players I play with that say I'm a bad locker room guy. So I don't know where that's coming from. So there were some things being put out there that muddied the water, and so yeah, it was a little tough period, man, to kind of go through as a guy who I had done everything to
Oh
that
yeah.
point. So I'm like, damn, that's how they really feel.
Yeah.
So
Did
that
you
was
did
crazy.
you have any moments that you felt like they were defining you by that you might have had lower moments while being on the Raiders that allowed them to say, "What's this about you being a bad team guy?"
Oh yeah, I mean, I had some asshole in me. I ain't gonna say that,
Yeah.
but but in terms of player and guys in the locker room, um, nah, it wouldn't have been from that. But yeah, I mean, I had my issues with coaches at times. Um, I like to hang out, do my thing. You know what I'm saying, outside of playing football. So maybe that could have had something to do with it. Who knows? Um, but in terms of being able to play the game and just overall, good dude. I'm a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Can you speak to like your development in the film room? Because obviously, like you're a guy, you were an All American coming out, Heisman Trophy winner, top 5 pick. Like you have all the accolades, right? Like it's like, oh, he's just so talented, he's super talented. But I was fortunate enough to play with Will Blackman for a couple years,
Mm-hmm.
and when Will and I we'd have our sushi nights and stuff. But he would talk about you as somebody who was always like last in the building, and he would learn a lot of his study habits from you.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you had those throughout your entire career? You developed them as you got older? Because he always said the best things about you. And I feel like something like that, like being a student of the game, kind of gets slept on when you're somebody who has all the accolades in the world.
Yeah, I think it compounds over time because you do start out, like myself. I was a great athlete, so a lot of stuff's going to come easy, so you don't necessarily have to spend as much time looking at certain things. But the one thing that I've always had as a player was I've had great play recall. You know what I mean? So when you're out there on the field and you see certain things, you start to pick up on tendencies. Like I always had that without necessarily having to look at film. And so then, as your career goes on, you take different methods from different coaches, like Vance Befford. Like I remember, just going back to a certain play. We played Northwestern my junior year, and it was a 3rd and long situation. And me and him had went over what they like to do in that situation, and they ran it out, and I picked that out off. So different things you pick up from different coaches. Chuck Pagano was another guy who worked on me on 3rd down as well. Being around him, I learned a lot on 3rd down tendencies, that being money down. And so over time, then you start developing your own style of how you like to see things. And so for me, like I said, I always had, good play recall. What I would start to do in my studies, I would start to watch the game from the opposing team's 1 yard line all the way to the 1 yard line, but in the same personnel. So I want to see you from the 1 to the 1, same personnel. I want to see it in all parts of the field because you'll run certain things from 1st to 5, 1st to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 20, 20 to, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of it mirrors what you do from here to here. You know what I mean? So like you take a Will, for example, I would have my film broken up certain ways. And then I would tell those guys, this is how I like to look at the film. And so we would, when we'd have our times together in our film room, we would look at the film and then we start going over these things. Now, when I would see something that would kind of, they may get to it a different way, but it's the same thing, I would go back to it. All right, now watch this. Watch how this team lines up on this play and runs it. Now watch them motion to it and run it. But it's the same thing. So I was always taught it's not how you line up, it's how you wind up. So those are the things that I was able to, pass along to those guys. And for me, it just over time, I got gradually even better at it.
You found like another way to prepare and be like, okay,
yeah,
add it to your game. And that fires me up as a defensive guy. That's football porn right there.